Hello and welcome to the Black Teacher Voice. I'm your host, Brittney Washington, and today is episode 7. What? I made this in 7 episodes. It's so crazy. 7 is my favorite number, by the way. So
Mine
just
too.
put that out there. I have a special guest today with me, and we have Miss Jasmine Bragg here today. And it's just so great to see her again. I feel like it's been a few years where whether it's the pandemic and being in another state, but it's just so good to see you today. And to have you here on the Black Teacher Voice.
Thank you for having me.
Of
I'm
course.
so excited.
Of course. Well, it is always another thing in education where we have so many things going on, but today I want to focus on the impact of having a Black teacher. So I want us to dive into that, but I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're coming from, what you do, all the things.
All right. So my name is Jasmine. I am a 5th grade ELA and social studies teacher. I teach here in Cleveland, Ohio at a local charter school. And I love what I do. I've been in education now going on 7 years. I've been at yes, it's right. So that's a lucky number, right?
Yes.
So yes, and now I have my own educational learning service where I offer tutoring. So, I'm in the school building all day, and then after I leave the school, I come in to my office and then I work with students one-on-one. And then I'm also a PhD student at Cleveland State University. So I definitely have a lot on my plate, but I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is what God has blessed me with, and I'm excited about furthering my education and just pouring into our youth.
That is amazing. I'm just so excited and happy for you. Like, we literally met in college, and it's so crazy because we didn't know we were in the same field or anything. And then all of a sudden we're like, girl, being able to walk undergrad together. It's just it's so inspiring to see us doing wonderful things, and being able to just be here and be just very inspiring. I don't know. That's the word that comes to mind. It's just the inspiration of just, you have a goal or you have a focus area and you just go for it and do it. And I wish you all great things in your PhD program too. Are you almost finished?
Very close. So I'll have another year and then I should be done. So I'm in the process of working on my dissertation, getting things together with comp. So yeah, I'm getting there. I'm a lot further than where I was at the beginning. So I'm excited and just looking forward to what comes after all of this. So yeah.
That's great. Well, you're definitely encouraging me because, girl, I keep asking myself, do I want to go to school again? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And it's definitely one of those inner dialogues that I have where I don't know yet. I just need to figure out, what do I want to do? It's so hard because there's so many things that you can do, but not limiting yourself.
Right.
But that's great. So the impact of having a Black teacher, what would you say motivates you to get up in the morning and just get your day started?
I would definitely say my love for knowledge. I'm just always trying to learn. I'm always trying to grasp and understanding of something. It could be the most simplistic thing. I'm always trying to learn. And so with that, I like others, the people around me, to learn. I'm always motivating my friends, my family, definitely my students. I go into the school building excited. I go in there, full of ambition just to see what the day is going to entail. So just knowing that I have the opportunity to pour into others and also being poured into as well. I think that's my biggest motivation for getting up, knowing that each day brings something new, something fresh for you to learn. You can literally learn something every single day. And I always tell my students, although I'm the teacher, you guys help me and teach me things that I don't know, and I think that's the most fulfilling part of it all.
Right. And I feel like you're having such an impact just with that mindset of your motivation. And it's important for our youth. It's just so important. I think that we can continue to, do all the things, but it really is that we are learning every day.
Absolutely.
And our students are learning every day, and then we're learning from them. And I also have that same perspective of like, yeah, I may be the teacher, but I'm also learning from you all.
Yes.
And you're teaching me so many things every day. And I think it's so hard for kids to see that, especially like with the younger kids. They're like, oh, my teacher is going to teach me. And in reality, it's like, I'm learning so much from you that you don't even really know.
Right. Because they think we know it all. You know, they think
Right.
teachers have every answer. And
Right.
I'm not afraid to tell them, like, yeah, I don't have every answer, but we can figure this out together. And I think, like, even with being vulnerable in that way, like, they're able to know, like, okay, my teacher is, like, so realistic. She's, so relatable. She can definitely, I can learn from her. She's really, telling me things that help her to learn as well. So it helps build those relationships. And I'm sure we'll get to things like that further as we talk. But it's important that they know, like, that you really are actually taking something from them out of, the lessons that we teach.
Yes. So let's talk about this. What age or what grade were you in when you had your first Black teacher?
I was 8 years old, second grade, Miss Grant. I will never forget Mrs. Grant. She was amazing. Like, I loved Mrs. Grant. I love Mrs. Grant so much that she was invited to, like, my grandparents' anniversary party. Like, I was like, if Miss Grant isn't at work, I'm not coming in the classroom. I just loved her whole life. Like, just seeing her in the classroom, it was just, like, amazing. Like, she just was so welcoming, so warm. And I'm like, I think about her all the time because it's like, that's what I want to be for my students. I'm 29 years old and I'm still reflecting on my teacher when I was 8,
Yes.
So, like, to me, that's just, like, amazing that she had that much of an impact in my life.
Yes, I feel like the same. I feel that same way. And I would say for me, my first Black teacher was in 4th grade. And I feel like it's really bad that it took that many years before I had a Black teacher. But like, I get the system now. But when as a child, you don't understand that. And so I had Mrs. Kellen. And it's so funny that I had her for 2 years. She ended up looping with our class for 4th and 5th grade. So I was like very blessed. But she was just so loving and so warm and so kind. And like, you can definitely tell that she was passionate about education and passionate about her African heritage. And she always tried to make sure she brought in just a lot of different exposure that we were able to then do different projects and do different things together where, like, I'll never forget those experiences. And it's so funny. She came to my high school graduation, and like right now, like this morning, even just getting ready for the podcast, I was like, you know what? I need to reach out to her again and try to find her. And so like I found her website and I started like sending a message. And so hopefully I hear something back. But it's like those things that you don't forget.
Right.
And I also try to think about like how she treated me and how she didn't let me give up, especially when I was like challenged with things or having some struggles or just needing some help in areas. And I'm just so grateful for that experience because it really matters and it makes a difference in how children view education and like how you have now growing into that mindset of, yeah, I can do it even though it feels hard, or like I'm in the group that's reading like books that are way below grade level. I mean, whatever it was during that time. And I'll never forget, she was telling my mother, like, we got to do some extra work here because I don't want to have to pull her from this, gifted and talented program. And it was just so good to know that she had my back in that and was like rooting for me. And that's something that will never go away. I'll never forget that story and that experience. But it's really interesting though. And I find this right now as I'm navigating through different schools that students oftentimes don't get a Black teacher until later on in the career, or sometimes not at all.
Right, exactly. And that makes a difference, to me, it's so important that students see people like them, that they know it's possible if they have that, dream to become an educator, that they know like it's obtainable. They can actually do it. It's important to me that my students know that, it's more of us. It's more Black teachers, just because you see me in this classroom and then everyone else on this floor may be of a different, race, it does not mean that it ends with me. You may be blessed to have another teacher, the African American teacher. And I think that, them seeing us and knowing and even just sharing stories, or just like us being able to have those relatable, anecdotes where, we talk about our culture and our background, and they're like, oh, wow, and they don't have teachers before us or, after us, but they get that in that moment, and it sticks with them,
Yeah.
I think that's so important. And you made a statement, you were saying about how your teacher, you were blessed that she looped with you and things like that. I mean, that's a blessing for sure, because you don't get that. And I had the opportunity to loop with my 5th and 6th graders when I was teaching 6th grade, and it was just like a bond like no other. It was just amazing, because you already know their behaviors, you already know where they are academically. They understand your teaching style. They know the language that you're speaking. And that's important. So having that, even if they don't get the opportunity to have another Black teacher, they know for those 2 solid years that they had someone who was pouring into them, who genuinely cared about them and build up their confidence enough to, succeed as they continue to move, up the ladder. Yeah. So I think that that's, amazing that you had your teacher with you for those 2 years, and was able to reflect on those moments, and then still being able to see her as you advance through your educational journey. That's amazing. I'm now I'm motivated and inspired to reach out and find Mrs. Grant, because I need to know where she is.
Yes, it's definitely it's just so heartfelt for me, because I think, once you have those students and then they move on and move on and move on, it's so great to hear from them, to see what they turned out to be, to see what they do, to know how you have inspired them. And that's what I want for myself. I want to know that Mrs. Washington, or at the time, Mrs. Harvey, I want to know that I made an impact. I want to know that I was there to support you, and that you can now, reach back out to me a few years from now. I tell my kids all the time, yeah, when I'm this little old lady, don't forget about me. I always tell them that. But it really is, it really has it's really a big part of where our education comes from and where it has stemmed from. And I know that they're trying to make change in different schools and school districts, where they're trying to build more of this population of teachers that do look like students, where the representation does matter. But I feel like it takes time, and it's year after year, and it's so many schools that are so entrenched in this white culture, of just being a stereotypical school with a lot of white, it's a white woman dominated field. And how to be able to bring in teachers and inspire teachers who are considering going into education, of all different races, so that way we have the representation that is needed. So that way kids come into the classroom knowing, feeling that sense of, oh, this person understands me. They know where I'm coming from. Even if it's not the exact same experiences, I can relate now to seeing someone that looks like me, in the human form, not just in books, because that's a whole nother topic of just books.
Yes. They need to see us in the physical for sure.
Yes.
I couldn't agree anymore. They need to know that we are alive and there,
I think be successful too. I think that's another thing too, knowing that they can see that we have success, and that you can also have success no matter the circumstance, because you have support.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It makes, when I go into the school building, I'm always mindful of, what I'm wearing and how I'm talking and everything, how I carry myself, because I want them to know, like, you know, there are Black women who don't just, you know, come outside looking, you know, any type of way. You know, there are Black women who actually dress up for work and put on heels and take pride in their job. There's Black women who know how to use their manners. Like, it's important that I display those things, you know, because a lot of time they think that because they have all these different, you know, white teachers that this is how, you know, these are the only people that can do things this way, you know, and that's not true. So, you know, it's important that we are representing ourselves in a particular way when we're talking to these kids and we're in front of these kids, because they need to see, like you said, that we are successful. We can do things that our counterparts can do. You know, it's able to be done. So I think that, you know, that's a big part of, you know, being a Black teacher, like having that impact and how you carry yourself. Like, and that goes for both, you know, the men and women. You know, Black men coming into work, you know, as educators, having on, you know, a nice button-up shirt or having, you know, a tie on or some slacks. You know, it's important that they see that, you know, we carry ourselves a particular way, and you know, you can do the same.
Yes, yes. So what are some of those qualities that Mrs. Grant had that you find yourself, like, pulling from, or just, like, in the moment when you're teaching, like, how does that feel for you?
Definitely, like, having her like personality. Like, she wasn't like putting up this facade like she was just perfect or anything like that. Like, she built genuine relationships with her students, and that's like anybody who talks to me, they know, like, that's part of my teaching philosophy. Like, building positive relationships with your students is very important. A student knows when, you know, it's genuine. They know that, you know, they can sense it from a mile away when it's not. They know, you know, those things. So in order for a child to learn and be successful academically and behaviorally, they have to be able to have a relationship with you as their teacher. They have to trust you. And
Right.
so, like, that was something I believe that Ms. Grant was like very, you know, stern on, with making sure that she took the time to like come next to you and be like, okay, so what's going on today? What's wrong? You know, what can I help you? What can I do to make today better for you? And, like, I remember her having those conversations, not just with me, but with my classmates. And so that was important. And then also, like, her being vulnerable, like, you know, coming in and saying, like, well, Mrs. Grant isn't having the best day today, you know, and because you think like your teacher is supposed to be perfect. You think that they're supposed to come in and be like, you know, I got everything right. You know, I'm putting everything on the board. This is how our day is going to go. It's a great day. And every day isn't great. That's real life, you know. So her coming in, showing that vulnerability, I think that also helped build our trust with her, because she, you know, will say, like, you know, I'm not feeling well. But then we would turn around and be like, oh, Miss Grant's not feeling well, so what can we do to help her? Because the second when we're not feeling well, she's always asking, what can she do to help us? So let's try to, you know, change that around. And so I try to do those same things with my students. Like, I'll let them know, like, hey, you know, Mrs. Bragg having a hard day today. You know, I'll let them know, like, you know, Mrs. Bragg has a lot on her plate. I have school, I have homework. So I have students that be like, Ms. Bragg, can I help you with your homework? You know,
that's so sweet.
It's so sweet. And I'll show it to them. They're like, you know, well, I could do something else. You want me to look at a paper, you know, grade a paper, and give me the answer key. So, like, just the fact that they know that, you know, I don't have great days every day. Like, they love to know, like, where I'm at. They check my temperature just like I'm checking theirs. Every morning it's important for me. Like, I play gospel music every morning. Like, before they come into the classroom, I'm asking them how they are, you know, what's on their mind, what's going on. Like, I take that time, and that's so important. And I think that, like, that's another quality that I took from Miss Grant, like, just making sure that, like, we're good, you know, making sure that, like, there's a positive energy and positive vibe in the classroom, because no matter what happened outside of those doors, when I walk in here, I know I'm going to be loved. I know I'm going to be uplifted and encouraged to, you know, be successful. And I think that's, like, those are things that I do. And I think I know those are things that I have definitely adapted from her, and I'll implement to this day, because I'm always thinking, like, I want to be that Mrs. Grant to my students. I do. I truly do.
That is so good. Like, that is so good. And it is critical that kids have that.
Mhm.
Because when they don't, then it's just chaotic. It's just a mess. And you
Woo!
can tell when that's the case.
Yes, because it's gonna make your job it's gonna be hard for both. Like,
Everybody.
everybody's gonna have a hard time. The teachers and I've seen it happen before,
Yes.
you know. But again, it's something you have to be passionate about. It's
Yes.
something that you have to genuinely believe in. Like, you have to go in like, I can make a difference. You know, even if I just touch one student today, if I have one student raise their hand and they're able to tell me, identify the main idea and find supported details, then I've done my job today. You know, just
Right.
it's gonna the other students, they're gonna come around, but if I just touch one, impact one in some type of way, then like I feel good about that. You know,
Yes.
um,
And
so
you raise a great point when you say those genuine relationships, and through that reflection and understanding from students, just knowing that they know that they can see this modeling from you, like when you do have good days, when you don't have good days. And I think that's important for kids because you don't know what they see outside of the classroom, but then for you to be able to show them that it's okay to be in those, whether it's emotions that are positive or emotions that you have to try to like cope with and deal with and manage, to be able to like know that this is real, right? And I know I have moments too where I'm like, oops, I made a mistake, but let me figure out, how can I problem solve? How can I make this better? How can I change things? Like, what do I need to do? And sometimes I do it for fake, and sometimes it's really a mistake.
right.
And I'm
I
like,
tell them,
but they learn best through seeing that and having that model for them, especially with younger students. I find it to be, I know you're in fifth grade, and I've taught fifth grade too, but with the younger ones, it's like molding and shaping and getting those like foundational skills of how to shift the mindset into more of a, I can do this and I will try, and that the mistakes are okay, and that my teacher's here to support me. And even at the fifth grade level, I was doing some of those same things. And so I know that it advances as you get older, and you start to really see where that impact is lying now as students develop and get older. So what would you say? Have you had any like parents or families or students that have reached out to you and just said like a few things that made you feel like, man, I know I'm having an impact? Like, was there any reassuring pieces that you've ever had in like your teaching career that made you feel like, this is the work that I'm doing?
absolutely. This past year, my very first class that I had independently at the school I'm at now, they graduated from 8th grade. And like, I've definitely have encounters with parents before where they've like, oh, I'm so glad you're my daughter's teacher. I'm so glad my son is working with you. Like, they always said it, but this past year, like graduation, I had a parent come up to me and she like had tears in her eyes and she was like, thank you. She was like, I know my son is not the easiest. She was like, I know like he has had behavior challenges. She said, but you never gave up on him. And she was like, and I will forever be grateful. I mean, like, she was like, so like, appreciative. Like, her gratitude was just like screaming through her chest. Like, because it was like, and at that time I was just like, I knew like how much he had been through. I had him 5th, I had him 6th grade, and then 7th and 8th when he left, I was just like always going to check in on him. And she was like, you didn't have to even do that. She was like, you had him out your classroom. You could have been like, oh, he gone, so I could relax and I could breathe, and And I was like, no, because I genuinely care. And so just the fact that she noticed that, even the fact that he was graduated from 8th grade, and I still had this good relationship with him and that whole class, really. She, took notice to that, and like just to pull me to the side and tell me how much she appreciated it and gave me a card and a gift card. It was just really sweet, And at that moment, I was just like, man, like it feels so good. Like, because the kids will tell you like, oh, I love you, Miss Bragg, or I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll give you a hug and they'll talk to you about things. sometimes they'll talk to you about things that they don't even come to their parents about,
Right.
And it's so good, like when the kid notices it, but then when their families at home know, like, you're really making an impact or you have made an impact in my child's life, like that's that feeling, like, okay, yeah, I'm doing something right. It's so fulfilling. I love that. I love having genuine relationships with the families. That's important to me. Like, I always say, where you come from, like, is important. I tell them all the time, like, I want to know who your parents are. I want to talk to your parents.
Yeah.
I tell them all the time, like, oh, you need me to text your mom or call your mom, or call your dad or whomever, grandma. I see grandparents, and
Yes.
I love grandparents. You know that. And
Yes.
I'm quick to always, what can I do, grandma? Well, how can I help? So it's just, it feels good when they acknowledge that, we don't have great support all the time. That, it's definitely a struggle at times, but when you have those who do support you, and are always rooting for you and always acknowledging, what you're doing and how you're pouring into their child educationally, that's a different level of gratitude. Like,
Yes.
it's so great.
Yes, 100%. I give everybody on the podcast 100%. No. I think you just bring up some amazing points, and I know I've also too felt where parents have reached out to me, and really, I know that I'm doing my job. I know that I'm doing what God has set out for me, to be able to be there, even if it's not just for education, even if it's just helping to get kids to build that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes a world of a difference. And then I know I did my part. So what advice would you give to, and this will be our last question today, but what advice would you give to Black teachers or people that aren't teachers that would like to enter into the field of education? What advice would you give to them, thinking about the impact that they can have on our young minds?
Don't give up. Keep going. Persevere. They need us. Our kids need us. They need to see us. They need to know that we are rooting for them. They need to know that we are here to push them, pour into them. So we can't give up. I know it's a frustrating thing. We can't allow, and I'm not going to say, so I hope this doesn't get taken the wrong, but I don't want to say that, someone of a different race can't teach our children, because they can't.
Yes.
But I believe that we have an upper hand in a way where we're not only teaching them, but we're also pouring into them, like, into their, culturally and, emotionally and socially, because we can relate better to the things that they have endured. And so I would just say, like, don't give up. Like, if I know it's challenging. I know sometimes it seems as though, like, you may be the only one in the room, and that's okay. But you keep going, because those babies need us. They need to know that we are there. They need to see us, because you never know. You might be the next Miss Grant. You may be the next Miss Kellen that you had.
Yes.
So you never know, and so knowing that you can have that impact on a child's life, and, through their educational journey, it could be academically, it could be behaviorally. That child may not have reached those goals, or, had the highest scores, on their state test, or whatever the case may be, but they may have changed their behavior because they know that I had Mrs. Washington or Mrs. Bragg, right there in front of me, pouring into me, and understanding that I had to go home and help my siblings last night, or I had to wake up this morning and get all my siblings together. Being able to understand those things, and them having that, that person, I think that that's important. So just don't give up. Don't allow this system to, turn you away. I think that if we continue to rise in our numbers with Black educators, I think that we can definitely make a difference. I think that we have made a difference so far. Yeah. And there's no limit to what we can do. I think that has been proven through so many arenas and avenues. So I think that, I know that I would leave that with, any educator right now that's African American, or anyone who is thinking about getting into education, do it. Don't give up. Don't stop. When you get into this field, all gas, no brakes. That's what it is. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, for me, I'm hoping to at some point, evolve outside of the classroom, but I definitely want to be able to pour into other educators, and being able to, bring them in, for our kids. They need us. They do. We need them. We need
Yes.
them to be successful. We need them to be able to, make more calls, because as we know, we're getting older and we need them to be able to move up in this and be able to have their impact in education, because the more we pour into them, the more we show our faces, the more Black educators we'll have.
Yes. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And it's so exciting. I think that's one of the biggest things for me. Like, it's so exciting to be able to know that you are making an impact and that this impact on others around you can help create change in the world. So one word that we will leave you all off with today for our listeners, what's one word that they need to reflect on for the week?
One word: persevere.
Persevere. Persevere through it all.
Yes. Don't give up. Keep going.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jasmine, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. You are just amazing in every way. I wish you and the Black Teacher Voice so much success. Episode 7, that's a blessing right there all by itself. So I'm excited for you, and I just can't wait to see how much it evolves from here.
Thank you.
Well,